vision screen, you'll see a picture of an old man next to mine. And I believe he has just called in. Is this Dr. Stephen Davis?
Yes, it is.
Well, welcome to your broadcast. And, if you do not call that local radio station and find out what they want, I'm going to travel to New Jersey, take the phone number, and I'm going to take you to the radio station, and we'll find out together what they want.
$1,500 a month.
Oh. $1,500 a month?
A month.
And how much? What do they want to give you? An hour broadcast?
An hour broadcast.
What time?
5 days a week.
Yeah.
6 in the morning.
You know something? When I first started this, there was a radio station in New York City, and one of the people came to Boston, and they began to purchase time on a radio station in Boston, and I was paying $3,000 a month. We were paying $3,000 a month. When I was on the Christian radio station here in Boston, I was actually paying on the Christian station $29,000 a year.
Goodness.
Yeah, and so they heard you. How did they approach you? Did you ask them how they? Did you say how did you find me?
They listened to our broadcast.
Okay.
And said we're interested. And they told me what they could do and all the other stuff, and then wanted $1,500 a month.
Well, here's one part of that. If you had the backing of 3 or 4 people that would sponsor you financially, I'm talking about businesses in the New Jersey area. Then that's easy, because the year that I spent $29,000, I ended up receiving $28,000 worth of donations. So I only paid $1,000. And I didn't even know that $28,000 had come in. And I've told the story that one day, I wasn't even asking for money. One day a lady called and she said, "I'm losing my eyesight, but I appreciate your broadcast. It's inspirational." And this is when I was doing the 11 p.m. until 12 midnight broadcast 5 days a week. And she says, "I'm going to write you a check because I can see now, but my eyesight's going." And she wrote the check, and when the check came in the mail, it was a check for $1,000.
Wow.
And then she sent another check for another $1,000. Then she sent the third check for another $1,000. So people who were listening to the broadcast without my asking appreciated what God was doing, and they didn't want us to go off the air, so they supported us, and that's how it happens. But I'm glad you called, because to me that affirms the fact that you do have people from around the country who are listening.
Well, that's what he said. He said, I never heard ministers go at each other like that. He says, usually ministers, have this persona that they are, this and that. And so he said, but you two, he says, when I first heard it, I didn't believe that you two were actual ministers.
That is so funny.
I really, and then he says, he checked on our Facebook page and looked me up on stuff, and he says, "Oh my God, he really is a pastor."
Oh my God, he's a pastor. We have to do something to get him defrocked.
Yeah. So they said, I like what you're doing, and I'm sure you would for $1,500 a month. I was quite flattered by it. But unless I come up with a group of supporters or sponsors,
right?
That would do that. That right now, that's just too much for me to take on by myself. So.
Right. It's something that you definitely should not do. One of the other things that I've said to some radio stations, because I know the business now, so I'll go to different radio stations and I'll say to them, I know how much for example, for an hour broadcast in most situations could be a low $150 an hour. A high, if New York charges, if Boston charges $150, New York charges $500 to $600 an hour, because New York is the number one in the radio market. Boston is number 10 or 11. New Jersey, you're not even on the scoreboard.
Sure.
But the other thing is that I say to the station owners, they want to charge me $150, and I say to them, no, I'll do it for $60, or I'll do it for $50. And they get upset because I know what the real cost is. See?
I see.
And the other thing is I broadcast, as you know, at 2:30 today I'll be broadcasting on 2 radio stations in Richmond, Virginia, and then on Saturday 2 in Mobile, Alabama. And I'm only paying about $50 for that because that station is more, it's a Christian station and they're more realistic. So let's say, for example, you really wanted to step out in a market in New Jersey. You try to find a radio station that is, for example, a radio station that has what we call low wattage. It's not a very powerful or strong station. So you go to a station like that, and you could probably get on for $25 or $30, and you do 1 broadcast a week. So you end up spending $100 a month as you get yourself acclimated, and people hear you, and people could start sending support in to help you, and they'll not only pay for that, but they'll pay for others. The other thing that we used to do when we got started is that we had a sacrificial offering on the altar every Sunday, and we didn't ask for it every Sunday. We just did it for a month, and then we stopped it, and we stopped talking about it. But people would give their tithes and offerings, and then if they wanted to give to the radio ministry, they would put $1 or $3 or $4 on the altar, and that's how we sustained it with that money that was coming in. So there are so many different ways. If the people in your church got excited about their pastor taking the gospel outside in addition to what you do in the park, but the radio gives you a larger, as you know, with Facebook.
Sure.
I mean, you and that's the other thing, and then we'll get off of this. A lot of the prices at radio stations are being reduced because people can do social media for nothing.
That's right. That's right. You know, it's the same thing now with billboards. You know, there was a time when billboards, cost, good Lord, it was trifling exactly how much billboards are. And now, I think the price has gone down like as high as like 75%.
Right, and that's because people have turned to social media and they're doing it much cheaper.
That's right.
But what we've decided to do, we have a guy by the name of Mike D who called us, and he does the 7 top urban gospel songs in the country, and he asked if we would air his broadcast. So he sent it to me, and I listened to it, and I liked it. And so we're airing him, and periodically I send him a note telling him the different stations that he's on. And so I sent him a note 3 days ago, and I said, this is an update on the station, because he thought he would just air on our FM station. And I said, no, you're airing on 26 different venues. And he couldn't believe that.
Wow.
And so and right now, you and I are on 26 different venues.
Well, speaking of that, don't you think there should be some type of financial remuneration?
For you?
Yeah.
Okay, well, I spoke to your church about that. And I said to your church, I said, he's old. And I said, his wife wakes him up in the morning. Honey, the broadcast. Honey, the broadcast. And she really just wanted to get you out the room. And then and I said, he goes through a whole lot just to do the broadcast. And your congregation said to me, they said, if you offered him $1, he would not even accept it.
There you go.
They said he's that humble, and when we offer him a salary, he doesn't even want it.
Yeah.
What a pastor you are.
Yeah, you sure you're talking to the same people I
know? I'm talking to your congregation, yeah.
Oh, really? So tell me, how do you like my new portrait?
Okay, so I was riding in my automobile, and I got this text from you. So because it was from you, I pulled the car over to the side. See? Because I didn't know what you were going to say. And I didn't want you to upset me. So I pulled my car over to the side. And I was delayed in arriving home. And my wife reprimanded me for coming home late. And I said, well, Stephen, and when she heard your name, she said, honey, you don't have to say anything else. I understand.
Oh, my goodness.
So I looked at the picture, and I said, who's that?
Because of my youth and my zest and vigor.
Well, what you did is that, for those of you who are watching the television part of this broadcast, if you look at it, Dr. Davis sent me a new photo. So, first of all, he shaved, which in my opinion was about time. Okay? And if you look at the top of his head, he has this gray and black look. Like whatever barber that he went to really took his time to. I mean, he has this real professional. I'm a radio broadcaster look. He has this. As a matter of fact, I think he's using this picture so that he can find other radio and TV venues to offer him, because what he's looking for, he's not looking to pay a radio station. He's looking for a radio station to say, we would like to pay you.
See, that's what it is. And correction, I do not go to a barber. I go to a stylist. And they style my hair.
Okay, so I used to have a friend who attended the church, and he used to cut my hair all the time. He would do it here at the church. He would do it at my house. He would do it in the back of the nightclub.
I know, really. Yeah, also the back of the pickup and everything else. Yeah, really.
But he's no longer here, so he's not cutting my hair. So I was forced. First of all, I started cutting my own hair. Every Sunday morning, I would cut my hair, and people would comment about it, and they didn't compliment me at all.
Ooh.
So I broke down.
That's because of your head. See, that's the problem.
The shape of my head is difficult.
Well, look at the shape of your head. I mean, you know, that means more time, more money for that oblong shape.
Well, I did try to go bald once, and people saw my head, and they said, "Please let it grow, let your hair grow."
That's sad. That's sad.
But this guy, he only charges me $20 when I go in, and normally he doesn't have a lot of people there, so I don't have to wait. I drive up, I go in, he cuts my hair. But this guy likes to talk to me about politics. So you're going to laugh when you hear this.
Okay.
It takes 3 hours for my hair to be cut.
3 hours?
3 hours, because he'll start cutting, and then he'll say, let's talk about politics. So he stops cutting, he goes and he sits down in a chair, and he's talking to me.
Oh, my goodness.
And then I say to him, can't you multitask? Can't you cut my hair and talk at the same time? So he'll get up. Oh, sorry. He'll get up. And then when he wants to make a point, he'll cut my hair. Then he'll stop cutting. And he steps back. He looks at me, and he folds his arms, and he starts making his point. And I say, can't you multitask?
Oh, my goodness.
So 3 hours later, I walk out of the barber's chair.
Oh, goodness. No, see, that's the difference between a barber
and a stylist.
Okay. You see, I have when I go and have my hair coiffed, they take time, because they know, that I have a certain look and a certain style and everything. So, that one, either that picture or another one, is now in the foyer of the church, because the other picture that was there, not the one that you had, but there was another one before that. That was done like 25 years ago.
Wow. Well, first of all, do you have your picture next to the picture of the the white man with blue eyes?
That's right. That's right. Yeah.
So you and Jesus with the white man with blue eyes, you and Jesus are side by side.
Well, he was a great guy, but I never thought of him as Jesus.
Oh.
And
he was just the white guy with blue eyes that you hung up in your church, right?
Yeah, they say he was there for some 42 years. So they decided to put his picture up there, as well as naming our education wing after him and his wife. So
well, you're talking about you thought I was talking about the former pastor.
Yeah.
No, I was talking about the picture of Jesus that you have in the foyer of your church.
Sorry, we don't have those pictures.
Oh, you don't have those pictures?
No.
Okay.
No.
Well, if we're truly friends, you will do me this favor.
What's that?
I would like to have my picture next to yours.
You would?
Yeah, right next to yours. Right. We'll have your predecessor. He'll be in the middle.
Yeah.
I'll be on the right. And you'll be on the left.
May I ask why is that?
Why I'm on the right?
Well, no. Why would your picture need?
Because it would attract more people to your services.
Really? That's
Yes.
what it would do.
If you had my picture in the foyer of the church, people would say, "Now that's the kind of pastor that I can be with."
Really?
Yes.
Well, we're really excited over the fact that you're going to be down here preaching in November. So
I am.
You're scheduled to be here for our 70th anniversary worship service.
I am.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. Well, this is what I want.
Yeah.
I do not want to stay in Newark because there's a lot of smog in Newark. Okay.
Really?
Okay, and I don't want to stay at your house because it's too busy. Right, and there's too much alcohol there.
Oh my goodness!
So what I want is that I want you to put me up at an exclusive hotel in Manhattan.
In Manhattan?
Yeah, but I will need a car to pick me up on Sunday morning to drive me to your church.
Really?
Yes, yeah. And I want the driver to stop at a restaurant because I need to have my breakfast, my substance before I preach.
Well, we've arranged for all of that already.
Oh, you have?
Yeah.
So what dump have you put me in?
Well, it's called the Scuzzy Inn. And, I told them who you were. And they said, he stayed in these all over Massachusetts.
Oh.
I didn't know why. And
you didn't know why they knew, right?
Yeah, I didn't know.
Yeah.
But it's called the Scuzzy Inn.
You know what I'm afraid of?
What? What's that?
I am afraid that when I go to the desk and go to my room, that the place would probably be raided.
Probably. Yeah, probably. Because they're nationwide, and like I said, they know about you. You're on there. You're one of their top 10 customers.
Scotty, help! Scotty, help!
I didn't know why you were one of their top 10 customers, but they said, no problem, and it was a great price. Matter of fact, it was so good they paid us, for you to be there. When I went to discuss the arrangements, I was quite surprised that I had to put on a hazmat suit.
You had to put on a hazmat suit.
Yeah. Yeah. Before sitting down and talking to them.
So that's the kind of hotel that you've and the chambermaids. They all work at Hooters, is what you're going to tell me.
No.
I'm bringing my wife with me.
Listen, they're not that classy to work at Hooters.
I'm bringing my Karen's coming with me. I don't trust you.
What?
I don't trust you. How am I going to call my church and say to them, I need bail money because of the hotel that he put me in?
First of all, I want you to know that warrant against you in New Jersey has been taken care of.
The warrant's been taken care of.
Yeah, the warrant's been taken care of. They do have a thing. After a certain amount of time,
it evaporates.
There you go.
Well, I have something that I would like to ask you about. I don't want you to get upset when you hear this. So I posted on Facebook that we were going to have a discussion on the white and black church, a conversation on race. And we were going to talk about the lynching of black people, how the white church just stood by and allowed this to happen, if not participated.
That's right.
Okay, and so a person who saw the post, a white person who saw the post, said, "Why are you stirring up these old wounds?" And let in essence, let bygones be bygones. And that bothered me because I said to myself, here in Boston, they have every single year, they remember the Boston Marathon bombing. Every year. They go back, they examine it, they have prayers, they talk about it. And then just the other day, we remembered 9/11.
That's right.
And the president spoke about it, and people from in different cities had ceremonies remembering. Here in Boston, we have a Jewish monument in downtown Boston, which was, by the way, vandalized twice within 2 months. But the Jewish community remembers the Holocaust.
Absolutely.
So I said to myself, why is it when we want to remember or reevaluate or study our history and past, do folk in the white community say, you're stirring up the hornet's nest, or why do you want to go back and look at that? Help me understand. As a matter of fact, I'm going to actually pull that up and read exactly what the person said. Now, I am not attacking this person. I'm basically saying I'm surprised at the comment. I'm looking it up here, and he says, this is exactly what he said. He said, let's move forward, not backwards. Most black people who commented said, yes, okay, I will listen. Thank you. They're sharing the post. Because I don't think that until the white church and black church has a serious discussion about why white churches push black people into the balconies of their churches, but yet send missionaries over to Africa to win them to Christ. But black people couldn't even go to their churches.
That's right.
Why is it that white folks sent missionaries over to Africa to win those people to Jesus? And here in the United States, they were hanging them, and church folk also participated.
Absolutely.
So I want to have that discussion.
All right. Well, first of all, I think we need a month of shows just to scratch the surface of something like that. But first of all, sadly, evangelicals, through the history of evangelicals, sadly have always been on the wrong side of every social issue that has come up in this nation. And who said, if you don't read history, you'll be doomed to repeat it. And sadly, some folks just think, well, that was the past. We have to move on. But no, it might be the past, but you're still doing it.
Right.
You're still. I tell people all the time. I said, Jim Crow might be dead, but his grandson Jimmy is very much alive.
Yes.
And sadly, one, you have to read history, or you will be doomed to repeat it.
Yes.
And again, they look at us sometimes almost like a non-entity. And mind you, I support our Jewish friends, and in terms of what they've had to go through. I was quite touched some years back when we were in the Middle East, and I was able to speak at the Yad Vashem Holocaust Museum outside of Jerusalem. And I was touched by that. That one, here I am, a black kid, born and raised in Newark, New Jersey, that I'm at this spot now that's been designated for the millions of people who were killed. So I was quite touched and honored by that. And it has to be remembered. That's another reason why it's so important that the Smithsonian took them tons of years to develop the Museum of African American History. Why? To remember that this stuff was done. Some people who just wanted, the right to live, what do they say, and to deal with the pursuit of happiness. That's all. We have a right for that. And for some reason, because of what African Americans have gone through, white people, oh, come on, we got to forget that. But you're still doing it. You have police officers who will kill a black man in a car, but if that person was white with a gun, they would try to do everything to keep them alive. That's one of the issues that we have now, and that's what's going on. So, a lot of ways, white folks, especially white Christians, they don't feel that that's important, and yes, it is. That they tend to forget that this is something that still haunts us every day. This gentleman who said that, if you and him were walking down the street, chances are that you would be shot before he would. And that's because of what's happening today. So that's that's a sad commentary of where we are, that we haven't arrived. And when I listen to people like, oh God, like Paula White, and that is really showing you that she's white, in regards to supporting the president and things like that. I just say we've come a long way, but we still have a long way to go.
We have a long way to go, and I do think that we need to talk about our past because it is a part of our history.
That's right.
And I'm not saying that we should make people feel guilty.
No.
But there is something wrong with other racial groups being able to look at their history. I mean, right now, the Jewish community, they're still pursuing Nazis.
That's right.
And bringing them to trial.
That's right.
And one could say, why are you doing that? You're expending a lot of money. You're wasting a lot of time. But they are pursuing Nazis, and they are bringing them to trial.
That's right.
But can you imagine us pursuing the federal government and saying, we want to go back and we want to identify all of the people who lynched us or tied us to the back of trucks or violated our families, and we want to have them prosecuted. Go ahead, caller. You're on the air.
Yes, Bob Fisher. I got to turn myself off here so I can talk with you guys.
Yes.
Good morning, Dr. Davis.
Is this my friend, my rich friend in Boston who lives down there? Well, has a summer home outside of the city.
I wish this was the rich friend.
Oh my goodness. How are you?
I'm rich in Christ, though.
Amen.
I'm doing well.
Good.
I just wanted to congratulate you on your first. I'm getting a lot of flashback coming from you guys.
When you say flashback,
echo. I got my voice coming back.
Flashback that you scream at the when you finish the flashback.
No, not that kind of flashback.
Oh, okay.
My voice is echoing off the station and coming back to me.
I don't know what that is.
Yeah, because I just cut my sound off.
Did it stop?
It did now.
Okay.
No. It's back again.
Yeah,
as soon as I start talking.
I don't know what that is. Let's try to get through it.
I'll listen to doubles.
Okay.
I wanted to congratulate Dr. Davis on his first offer to do some radio station-itis. And,
that's very kind.
He enjoys himself.
I mean,
you're welcome.
That's exciting that when you think about it, that another radio station in another city is listening to Dr. Davis and said what he said. I would like to have you on our station. You'd be good for our station.
Mm-hmm.
Wow.
The comedy in it as a pastor is quite unusual.
I was quite flattered by it, but I'm not a human being. I'm a human doing, and folks have to, they look at, sometimes they look at like the three genders, that there's male, female, and then ministers. They don't understand the fact that we have family, we have children, we have grandchildren. We deal with the struggles that everybody else in the country deals with.
Sure, and we have humor too.
Yeah, absolutely, that's part of the human doing. That there is humor. Someone asked me, how could you do this or you'll say this or something like that, and I tell them, I say, I could, when Dr. Wald tries to be a comedian and tries to talk about me, and he'll never make it. I want him to keep his day job. But
I thought he was quite slick. He slides him in there.
Thank you, Brother Fisher.
Oh Lord! But the fact is that that's because I don't take myself seriously. I take what I do.
Neither do I.
And that's why we laugh at you all the time. But I don't take myself seriously, but I take what I do, very seriously. So I'm able to laugh at myself.
And also do I.
Yeah, you know what? I wish some seminaries would teach some courses on that you're still a human being or a human doing.
I wish they'd teach the truth.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Well, no, we can't be doing that because that would make people upset. You see.
Well, you were just talking about why the white church would be killing people over in America.
Yeah.
And then go over and proselytize them. Listen, we got seminaries over here that are bringing Africans in, like I don't know what.
Yeah. Yeah.
I'm getting back on the subject now.
Oh yeah.
I'm off the congratulations.
Okay. All right. I see.
Okay. They come over here and they get the education. I call big American education from American seminary. Good Christian seminary. I ought to be housed anywhere in the world. Any church ought to be able to take me. It's crazy.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. I see it, and it's I'm saying, when will you folks get it? When will you understand? And I do like an organization that I hope to have the founder on this show. It's called International Cooperating Ministries out of Hampton, Virginia. And what they've done is that they've built churches in third world countries. But their design is once the church is built, pastors from the area, the indigenous, they take over the church. They pastor the church and so on, and their job is to also bring other churches in the area. But of course, if we read our history, we see that missionaries, didn't do anything like that. They came in and they took over and they told you what was this, what was that, and they told you that your culture was wrong. They told you that that you had to do it this way and that way alone. That's and like you said, that's still going on.
Well, it was all part of the 1-2 step that took place in terms of one country taking over another, imperialism and colonialism. It was all part of that.
Yeah.
The 1-2 punch was sending in the church first, which would soften everybody up, get them all ready for a Christian religion, and it was also the imperialistic way of enforcing one culture upon another culture. And then the guns came in.
That's right.
Not only that, you also had the church who, after they stepped back and let the guns come in, you also had the style of ministry by these Christians who would help steal the land at the same time.
That's right.
There was one African, I forget his name, but the saying that he had, he said, when they came to see us, they showed us how to pray.
Mm-hmm.
And they showed us how to close our eyes and lift our hearts up to God. But when we opened our eyes, our land was gone.
Mm. Mm. Oh, Lord.
Isn't that something?
Yeah. Oh.
Christianity has almost always been the handmaiden of imperialism.
Absolutely.
Overseas. And even in the United States, it did it with the Native Americans.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it with us, of course.
Absolutely, yeah.
So when we have black activists or black nationalists continually saying that Christianity is the white man's religion, how do we defend our position? Because, as we know, that the Word of God was not taught to us and with the full counsel, the full teaching. It was part of the Word of God was taught to us, but the part that would cause us to be docile, to be submissive.
Mm-hmm.
So how do we defend that when we have people coming to us? Because here's the other thing. This white gentleman on Facebook doesn't want me to talk about the history of the white church and the black church, but we have to talk about the history. We cannot leave this history left to their interpretation.
That's right.
Don't you agree with that, Reverend Fisher?
Well, they actually don't want to talk about it at all.
Right.
If you give them their way, they don't want to talk about it at all, because what it means is that they have to own up to their own sins. And we talked about it last week. It was one of the many things we talked about during our 7 to 8 hour that we did earlier. Okay, and one of those things was that we had a conversation about how they want us to forget about everything that they've done. They go out and they grab everything. They go out, and I just put up a little post the other night, and I talked about how they will change the laws and put them in their favor, and then they'll come after everything you've got. If you've got laws already, like the 500 tribes of Indians who were in the United States when they got here, they'll take and make their laws and superimpose them over your laws and say, well, this is the law of the land now.
And not
And
even
then they go after everything you've got.
Yeah, and not even to mention the fact that every treaty that was signed between the United States government and the Native Indians was broken by the United States.
They broke them. Actually, some of them was on the side of the Native American, too, because when they started fighting
you guys
the
keep
Civil
talking.
War,
I've got to answer the door. Keep talking.
where you going? You got food coming in, huh?
I'm telling you.
After that food. Anyway, these guys would, sometimes the Native Americans would switch sides and they start fighting against the Union. Or, they were on the side of Southerners because they owned slaves, too. Native Americans did own slaves. I must also say, to be fair about it, that there are some blacks that own slaves, too.
That's right.
So, but that's when they broke their treaties, and that's when somebody like an Andrew Jackson was able to come into town and say, okay, you all got to go. You broke the treaty. We're going to do this Trail of Tears thing here. We're going to drag you out, man, woman, old woman, boy and girl. We're going to drag you all the way across Missouri and Arkansas. That's it. Whoever dies, dies. But we ain't taking care of you. We're just moving you.
So my question to, as a matter of fact, Reverend Fisher, an invitation is coming to you, to Reverend Daniel Walker, to Louise Cassillon, and to a David Hill. David's a white pastor. Louise, as we know, is a white believer, and Reverend Fisher and Reverend Walker are black ministers, along with myself. What's to be gained?
Hold it. I didn't hear you say my name. I don't. Was that?
But that's
you're not going to hear that.
Did I lose the signal or what?
No. I need it.
Was never given.
Okay.
We know you don't know the history, and the other thing is that I feel it's important on this discussion.
He's just a pretty boy, huh?
Oh my goodness!
I feel it's important on this discussion that everybody is in the studio and they're face to face with each other. We've got to be face to face because, for me, I have a number. Right, I have a number of white Christians who are my friends, and I love them. Okay, because we can go anywhere in our discussions, and after we have a hard discussion, I could say, let's go to Uno's and get some soup. All right. But you can't do that. You can't do that with every Christian, every white Christian, because when I went to the Christian college, remember what I said. The freshman orientation was called Slave Day. I told you that. And when I went to the Christian college, most of the students had never gone to school with a black person before, and they were asked this question: is it true that blacks used to have tails, or will that rub off? Or there was only one black female on the college campus. There were 5 black males.
And all of you had to. That was the only one you could date.
No, that wasn't it. What it was is that that's part of it. What it was that she was short in stature. I was the shortest African American male on the campus, and so they said, because you two are short, she's a woman.
Yeah.
You're a man. You two should be dating. They never conceived of me putting my eyes on a white Christian woman on the campus.
Oh, God forbid.
Okay? Or when I made an application to go to Bob Jones University, I received a letter back that I still have that said that I could not be admitted because they were concerned about me dating the white women on campus. So these discussions we need to have because some of these schools are still in existence.
Yeah.
Some of these individuals are managing these churches.
Oh, yeah.
We have to have the discussion.
Oh, yeah.
We have to have the discussion. One of the things that I did not get a chance to finish saying because Brother Davis wanted in, I had to let him speak. As the senior and the prettier one to myself, I had to let him in. Anyway, whites take everything. And after they get finished taking everything, then they want to turn around and say, oh, brother, we need to live in peace. We need to live in peace. Why do you want to bring these things up again? There's your answer right there. They've got it all. So why do they want to fight now? They realize they can wipe us out if they want to.
Yeah.
But why should we?
They're doing it.
Any church that is over 100 years old has a history of racism in that church. Okay, my church that I went to that I hardly go to anymore, and I'm not going to name the name of it, but it was in Rhode Island when it was living down there. And I can't even name the name of the person who's in association with that church because everybody would know what that church's name was. So I can't even go that far. But because of their racism, okay, this man was supposedly able. This man was, one of the Puritans, one of the first guys over here and spending time in the first 30 years of our plunder and pillage in the United States, put it that way. This man was supposedly able to get along with anybody. He got along with Native Americans, got along with other people. He knew about the black slave trade and he kind of touched on it a couple of times, but who knows if he ever owned a slave. But people were coming to his church, both black and white, and the blacks had to sit in the balcony. Okay, custom of the day? Really? You go all over the place to find a Negro to convert them, but they're sitting right in your own church to make them sit in the balcony. That church, eventually the blacks in there got tired of it, broke it off, and went and created another church, which is up on the hill by Brown University. Okay, and they've been there ever since. They're still there now. They're a small church. I would say if they had the troubles that Houston and Florida have had over the past couple of days, the church could probably have some real problems, with water and things like that. They're not in the valley. They're up on a hill, but they'd have a hard time getting down into the city and moving around because they would be above water, and they'd have to drive down into the water to get into the city and move about and rescue themselves, or else they're trapped in that church forever. But they had to get out of that church to go and have their own peace of mind because
that's right.
They weren't wanted by the same white people who opened their doors to them.
Absolutely.
Have you ever heard of a white church having a service? Remember, Reverend Fisher, when you came to preach at Dorchester Temple, and we had 2 services, you came to the 8 o'clock service, and then I think it was after the 8 o'clock service, I washed your dirty feet. I washed your scaly feet.
Oh my goodness.
I had to put my gloves on.
Uh-huh.
I had to put on my hospital. I put on my hospital. I put on my hospital gloves. But
I had to put on a muzzle.
Oh my goodness.
But and there were some people in this church who were upset because of the things that I said from the pulpit with reference to you and apologizing to you for what the church did.
Oh, well, they were all white too, weren't they?
Yes, they were. No. Remember, Bob. Remember that there were some blacks who were aligned to the white community.
Yes, we know. We know that, and I'm going to bring that into it. There was some stuff that was going on in there, in which people who I had known for like 20 years before, and bringing it up to date. This person got in touch with me recently and wanted to find out my brother's number and blah, 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 blah. And I got on his case. I said, I know you had a part in washing my feet, but we never sat down and had to talk as to how hurt I was that you were part of that number of people as my friend from way back.
Yeah.
Okay? You came and washed my feet, but you still don't know how that hurt me. That you were part of the crew. It was 1, 2, at least 3 of you that I can look at. Those 3 I knew for at least 20 years. And so there's a lot of reconciliation because a lot of times whites will point at you and say, well, blacks did this and blacks did that. Well, some blacks don't know where they're going either. They don't have the GPS in order. But at the same time, they ought to know when they're hurting a friend. I said, you and I need to have a talk.
But see, what you're saying right now,
on the phone. Yeah.
But what you're saying right now is when you said you and I need to have a talk, what you're really saying is that we have to go back and look at this history between me and the church and you and the church and our friendship. We have to go back there if we're going to be able to move forward. And that's, you have just nailed it as it relates to why, as to why the black church and the white church, we need to be having this discussion, because based on what is said, will determine whether or not they're still back there in that mindset.
That's right.
Based on the conversation.
It's almost like
it's basically hard because they really do not want to own up for what they've done. They really don't want to own up for having to listen to the Catholic Church because they had no rudder. They had no oars in the water to know which way they were going to go. And the Catholic Church had already said it was okay for Negroes to be enslaved, especially if they weren't Catholics.
Right.
Okay? So it started off there. And then the Protestant church over here in the United States was trying to take their cues from the Catholic Church, and they had no cues except to go along with it. And half of them had already, and this we talked about last week, Bruce, that these people had already owned slaves. So how could they tell their non-Christian counterparts not to own slaves? That was the other part. So they bought into it lock, stock, and barrel, and they don't want to admit that they're wrong. They'd rather say, well, getting back to the part that I was holding this guy accountable for, we finally got together and talked. And I was almost crying, but by the time I got finished with it, because it meant so much to me that he was a friend of mine. We're musical friends and everything else. We know who we're talking about, Bruce, so I can't take that any further because we don't want to mention names or anything like that just out of dignity.
Well, you know,
not here to defend themselves.
Yeah. Right. Well, you know, there was a time, and I tell people that, you know, there was a time that we were all a bunch of happy Baptist folks. And the issue of slavery came into existence, and actually, I believe it was 1845 or 1847 that the Southern Baptist Convention came into existence over the issue of slavery. Yes. And it's only been, it might have been maybe, no, it hasn't been 25 years. It has been maybe between 15 and 20 years that the Southern Baptist Convention finally admitted that they were wrong and that slavery was wrong.
Wow.
Isn't that something? It was very recent that they did that, too.
Yeah, very recent. I don't think it's been 20 years. But as a matter of fact, I think it's more like maybe between 10 and 15 years that they have.
I think it's more recent than that.
Really, it might be. You know.
Oh yeah, because they were fighting over for a number of years, and a black man had to stand up and read them their history. Yeah. And he said, "I want a resolution that we're going to get over this, but first we have to recognize it." Yeah, and you know, they finally did. Yeah, you know, from '85 until '93. I pastored the only black Southern Baptist church in Norfolk, and you know, first of all, historically, I was really surprised, but you know, they still do have that persona that, you know, you folks are still ignorant, you folks are still this, you know, unless you play by our rules, you know. That still exists in the Southern Baptist Convention. They've made some changes. I appreciate that, but they still have a long way to go. And, you know, they really have to, you know, come to grips, you know, with that. So the fact is that this stuff is still vibrant in the nation. You know, it still exists, that you have to admit that this stuff exists. And even though, you know, they might not wear, you know, the sheet, you know, over their head. Oh, yeah. They're still doing it. Well, you know what black people need to do? Black people need to be defiant. Mm-hmm. We need to stop asking how it could be. We need to start declaring how it's going to be. Mm-hmm.
And this needs to be rooted out of the Christian church. Absolutely. On both sides. Mm-hmm. Guys,
both whites and Negroes.
Right. Mm-hmm. Guys, it's 11:55 or 8:55, and I'm going to have to go to station ID. Dr. Davis, since you're the one that other radio stations want, we're going to give you the final word.
Oh, my goodness.
We have less than a minute.
First of all, it's always a pleasure to be with you and my buddy Bob Fisher, who he gets paid to be on your station. I don't. I'm still trying to understand that. But you know, often I will come across people, and we will talk about things, and I say to myself, "I thought we dealt with that 40 years ago." You know, which says to me that this stuff is still alive and still vibrant. You know, in the church. It saddens me when I see people of color that will take sometimes the side of white folks, and we'll say, yes, that's right, we do have to, you know, to get forget about that. But no, you do not forget about that. Marcus Garvey, who certainly, wasn't another person that we don't like to talk about, but he said, the only honest people I know, or the only honest white folks I know, were those in the Klan.
Wow.
He says, they let you know how they felt.
40 seconds.
All right, but it's always a joy. God bless all of you folks. And the bottom line is that we know that that Jesus is the answer to deal with all of the issues that we're dealing with today.
Thank you, guys. Looking
Amen.
forward to us dialoguing on next week. We can only give Dr. Davis 1 day a week, because if you gave him 2 or 3, he would try to take over everything. Goodbye. Bye. Great talking to you.
Always a pleasure, brother.
Okay, bye-bye.
Bye.
Station ID, and then when we come back, Judy
This
will
is
be
Pastor Bruce
on the
Wall
line.
from the Global Ministries Christian Church. This is the